Well, how we doing? It's Friday evening. It's like 6:15 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, by the way. Now, the other day, I was making ramblings and everything else, and I was talking about how I got terminated from that trucking company in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Got a yawn coming. Give me a second. Okay. Now, I didn't use a Post-it note. I was outside doing something, and something triggered me to think of something that, and I was like, you know what? While I'm thinking of it, I'm gonna make a video of it. So here I am. Now, what happened is when I drove a truck over the road, I would go out for 6 months. I would come home maybe a week, if that. Sometimes 2 or 3 days, and I'd be like, hey, no, I'm going crazy because I'm not moving the truck, I'm not making any money, I'm not chasing that white line, you know, try to go back out on the road for 6 more months and then come home for whatever time. But I always made sure that I came home on the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Everything else was, you know, it was whatever. But those were the 3 times of the year that I came home guaranteed, because when I came home for the 4th, another yawn, I would stop off down in Tennessee because I was based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, so I'd stop off somewhere between Chattanooga and Nashville, and there's a place down there called Sad Sam's or Sad Sacks, I can't remember exactly, it was a firework place. Man, they had crazy stuff in there. And I remember one time I went in there and I spent like $1,000 something just in fireworks. And of course I bobtailed in the house, and you know, my brother was there, my other brother was there. We had like a crazy ass 4th of July, pissed off the neighbors for hours after the time most people would quit shooting them off. Just had a grand time. And then after that, you know, it was like whatever. I got to yawn again. Son of a bitch. But anyway, what took place is my DM, what they call them now, dispatchers. My mom called my company and said, hey, there's been a death in the family, contact him, get his ass home as soon as possible, blah 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 blah. Easy peasy. Only problem is my dispatcher didn't tell me until like 6 months later. And he didn't tell me it was a funeral, he just told me that my mom called. So I came in one evening in Chattanooga. I was doing routine maintenance on the truck in the trailer I had at the time, and of course they were checking everything from your blinker lights to your differential gears, and that's everything they check, and you know, to make sure everything's up to par and everything's running to my specifications. And then if I had a list, because when I would come in the terminal, I'd pull up to the outside shack, which is the garage shack, and go in there and tell them my truck number, you know, blah blah blah. I'm in for routine maintenance. They give me a piece of paper to check out certain things to check for, and then if there's anything in the truck that's noise wise, vibration, you know, anything that I think should be taken care of, write it down, drop it on the side part of the box of the truck, and that way whenever it's my turn to go in, they'll do everything to fix the problems as much as possible I have no idea why I'm yawning so much for. I have no clue. I'm sorry. But anyway, I get inside, I call my mom. My mom starts to rip my ass. And when I say rip my ass, think of a drill sergeant ripping somebody's new recruit's ass. And that's when my mom started ripping my ass. And it pissed me off, because I'm like, what the hell did I do? Don't talk to me this way. I didn't do nothing wrong. I'm calling you like you told me to. And that when I said that, she ripped my ass even more. And then explained to me why she's ripping my ass. And I don't remember what I said. I just know I hung up the phone. I went to the DM's window and I said, hey, I need to see such and such. And the way I said it and the tone I used, they knew and he knew he was going to get his ass kicked. And long story short, he refused to see me, refused to acknowledge me. So I went and grabbed my tire tool, and a tire tool is a big old long piece of hickory or oak or whatever handle, and it has a steel band around the tip of it. And you take that tool and when you're walking past your trailers or your semi, and you smack the tires a certain way, when it makes a certain sound, you know the tires are properly inflated the way it should be. And if it doesn't make that sound, that's when you know you need to put some more air in your tires. And that's what the purpose of a tire tool is. It's not to break lug nuts. And I went to grab that. I sat on the hood of his car for a few hours at least. And they called Tennessee State Police. They showed up. We talked a few things back and forth, and I told him, I said, one of us is getting our asses kicked, one of us is going to be taking an ambulance ride, and one of us is going to be going to jail, preferably me. And of course I explained to the trooper what actually took place, everything else with the course of time. Trooper unlatched his sidearm, laid it on the hood, and said, would you rather shoot his ass besides split his ass? And I said, truthfully, honestly, I would. I said, but if I shot him, there's not enough bullets in the gun, and I'd just much rather just beat his ass to a pulp. And not too long after that, they called us up in the main part of the terminal of the company and everything else, and David Parker's sitting there, and he's chewing my ass and everything else, and it's going in one ear out the other, and I got choice words to say to him as well. And that's when I grabbed the termination paper, and he started filling it out, signed it, dated it, basically threw it to me, signed fuck you and dated it, turned around, slid it back to his ass, and grinned real big. And that's when beforehand he told me, you got 15 minutes to clean out your truck or my truck and get off my property. It went from 15 minutes to like 5. And I was like, I could have it done in less than that. I was pretty much already packed anyway. But, yeah. That is how I got terminated with extreme prejudice from Covenant Transport. Now, I've been fired from a couple other companies, I'm not going to lie, and usually it's because of log violations, excessive driving, running out of route, because they're like, oh, here's the route we want you to run, and I'm like, whatever, I'm going to reroute myself. And they get mad about that. Well, why don't you run the routes we give you? I'm like, well, then why don't you get your ass in the truck and you drive the truck the route you want to take? As long as I'm driving the truck and I'm responsible for everything on the truck and in the truck, I'm going to run the way I want to run. You don't like it? Fire me. A couple places did. No big deal. Even to this day, I'm not going to lie, if you had a CDL and you drove for at least a year, 2 years, driving for whoever, whenever, you can pretty much go to any company, and they will hire you on the spot, no questions asked. Now, if they haul hazmat and you don't have a hazmat license, they won't hire you. If they pull tanker and you never pulled tankers before, they would probably hire you, but you wouldn't be pulling tanker right off the bat. You'd be riding with somebody learning the ropes and everything else. But anything that deals with the dry box, anything that deals with the reefer, and if you pulled any one of them standards, you can go anywhere in the U.S. and then you get a job, snap of a finger, without batting an eye, and no questions asked. And that's how easy it is. And that's why I've told a lot of people, hey, get your CDL, do your time over the road, do kiss and ass, yes and boss, yes and massa type shit, do your year's time, After you got a year under your belt, you're pretty much, you know, I don't want to say you're, you know, you can handle anything, but you can handle a pretty good amount of, as much as anything as what most of your companies want you to do. And, you know, of course now there's all kinds of different stipulations. You know, they monitor this, they monitor that, they want to know everything that you're doing. When you're taking a piss, when you're wiping your ass, when you're rubbing one out, you know, they want to know everything. So nowadays it's probably a little different, other than if you have a CDL, they would hire you. But, you know, I love driving a truck. I really did. I love driving a truck. Now, there's a lot of times I didn't love driving a truck, because when you're dispatcher, classic example, and some of y'all are gonna laugh, but I'm telling you, this is the God's honest truth. I was up in Pennsylvania, and I can't remember what area. It might have been Lancaster area of Pennsylvania, or what's the other one up there? God, I used to run to it all the time. I can't think of it. We used to have a drop yard up there. It wasn't Philly. Starts with the D. I can't even think. But anyway, I was up around Lancaster area, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania, there's a lot of Amish. Well, at least there used to be. And one of the directions was, when you're going down State Road such and such, and you come upon the Big Red Barn, you make a left-hand turn. Do you know how many goddamn Big Red Barns there are on this state road? There's like 1,000 different Big Red Barns on this road. And I contacted my dispatcher and I said, dude, what is the name of the road? And he goes, well, I just know to go by the Big Red Barn, make your turn. I'm like, there's 1,000 Big Red Barns. Which road is the number? Which road is the name? Well, I don't know that. You're the dispatcher, tell me where to go, and you don't know where in the hell you're going? Yeah, that's how sometimes you'll get in those little predicaments like that. And yeah, you know, you're just like, then the next thing is, it's like, give me the number to the person I'm dropping off to, so I can call them to get real better directions. And then sometimes they get pissed off, and like that. And I'm like, well, then I just won't deliver on time. I'll sit here until it's late, and then you can handle it. And usually when you say that to them, their attitude changes really quick, and they'll pretty much get you what you want. Sometimes you don't have to go that route. You just tell them, hey, I need number for drop. You know, here it is. Blah 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 blah. Good luck. That's it. Now, for every one good dispatcher, there's 1,000 shitty ones. And it's the same way with truckers. For every one good trucker, there's 1,000 shitty ones. And I know that I'll probably piss off some of you drivers out there. I don't care. It is what it is. The only thing I gotta say is get on YouTube and type in Swift Trucking, and oh my God, some of the stuff you'll see, you'll be like, and this is still a trucking company, and they hire what? Yeah, it's comical. That's all you got to do. Or Google Swift Trucking videos. I mean, it's unbelievable, the dumbasses that drive a truck. And, you know, and I can tell you right now, I had one massive accident which ended my driving career, because I had a roll of steel come down the trailer into the truck, and you know, that's what ended my driving career. And a few years later, due to medical conditions, they pulled my CDL, which it pissed me off, but now I understand why they had to pull it and everything else. I don't care, because I couldn't drive anymore anyway, so you know, it ain't no big deal. So, but I know I crushed a Mercedes-Benz in New York one time because the guy was parked in a no parking zone at the time of day, and when I was initiating my turn, my trailer about midway, came across about the hood of his car, and I couldn't finish my turn because he was parked in an area that he was not supposed to be in. And when the Evel Knievel pulled up beside me, basically said, hey, look, you know, this is your choice. You know, you crush the car in the process of making your turn, or I'm going to cite you for disruption of traffic for every so many minutes you sit here. I'm going to keep writing you a ticket. And I said, if I crush his car, am I responsible? And he said, no. He's parked in a no parking zone. You're not, you know, you're not reliable because of his screw up. I said, hell yeah, baby, that's all I got to know. And I tore the shit on my trailer. I did. I tore the shit out of that trailer. But I fucked up his Mercedes in the process. And when he came out of that side area, he was cussing and screaming and carrying on. And that cop was like, hey, you know, see that sign? You're parked illegally. He was initiating a turn. He couldn't make his turn because you did something stupid. So he said, for every stupid action deserves a stupid reaction. Here's your ticket for blocking this, and you're responsible for paying for his shit. And he was pissed. But I loved it. I thought it was great. Now, I'm not sure what the statute limitation of windows is. But I will not say the location that I did this in. But I ran across a scale house a couple of times at 60 plus miles an hour. And when you do that on a scale house, you fuck up that scale so bad that basically they got to take the scales out of the ground, ship them up to one place in the United States that repairs them, which is up in New York. And then it takes them a couple of years to fix it, and then about another year to ship it back, and about 6 months to put it in the ground. So let's just say that I blew out a couple of scale houses somewhere between here and California. And I'm not saying where, because I don't know what statute of limitations is, and every state's different. So, but yeah, I blew out a couple of scales because I was that kind of a driver. Because I was an outlaw driver, I was a Smokey and the Bandit badass, and I was this and I was that, and my dad is the one that taught me how to drive. No, he taught me all the bad ways of how to drive. I actually went to a trucking school. They were supposed to have taught me, and this was great because this was in their clause of their I guess their bylaw for the trucking company. It stated that if I went to their school and they taught me everything they thought I should know, and because how I got my CDL technically is I got hired to a trucking company that basically paid for my schooling, and I went to school there, and then after my schooling was done, I had to go work for them for 1 year. That was the thing. But in the clause section piece, it states if I do my CDL training and I go to the company I'm supposed to be working for, and for whatever reason they do not hire me, I do not have to pay for my CDL. And that's what took place. And because they flat said, you know, yeah, you got your CDLs, you know, you're good to go, but we do not feel that you are ready for us to release over the road in one of our pieces of equipment. So they wouldn't hire me. And of course, the trucking company school I went to, they tried everything in the world, you know, try to do this and do that and everything else, and they sent court documents and letters how they're going to sue me for $15,000 and all this other shit. And I went to court and had the little clause piece, and I said, hey, they wouldn't hire me. This is what y'all have in your thing. And as soon as I did that, you know, it was just like the judge was kind of like, you're all fucking dumb. You know, you put this thing on the application, and he has it, and here's what states plain as fucking day. They wouldn't hire him. You trained him. They wouldn't hire him. So it's y'all's thing. He got a free CDL. That's why I got my CDL. And but I had a lot of lumps and hard lumps and hits in the head and everything else and kicks in the ass to get me where I was at down the road. But you know, I took a lot of shit jobs. I drove for people that were, truthfully and honestly, should not have even had a company. More or less try to pay people. I drove for some shit asses. I drove some shysters. You know, you name it. I've driven for them. I've driven for people that, you know, would give you the world if you would just do for them. And, you know, and this is another company but a lot of people look down upon, and I loved them to death. I had so much fun with this company. It was a 50-50. And there was times that, you know, they would do things that I just kind of like, really, what the hell? But, you know, they treated me great. I love them. If I had a CDL to this day, and I was able to go back to that company, I would drive for them in a split second, not even a bat of an eyelash. And that company's called CRST. Cedar Rapids Steel Transportation is what they stand for. Now, in the trucking world is castrated rooster standing tall, can't remember shit today, can't remember shit tomorrow, certified registered Schneider trainer. I mean, there's all kinds of names for them. But when I drove for them, I was making like 48 cents a mile as a company driver. And at that time, to be a company driver for the amount of road time that I had when I was driving for them was unheard of. But the reason why is because when they gave me a load, I was there hours before the drop time or a day or two before the drop time. Now, my logbook was stretched so damn thin and tight that, you know, basically when they got my logbook paperwork, they had to go back and recalculate a lot of shit and, you know, make it look even more legible than what it was when I turned it in. But they knew if they gave me a load, it was there way before time or on time and never late. And they treated me like a king. And they gave me, as a company driver, when they switched over, most of their trucks were governed at 65 miles an hour. That was most of their fleet, 65 miles an hour. You could stand up, smash your foot on the accelerator, stand up, holding the steering wheel, going downhill, out of gear, and you're going 65 miles an hour. I mean, that was it. Top speed. There it is. The truck they gave me was governed at 85. And it pissed off a lot of people. And they're like, well, why in the hell is his truck so much faster than mine? I guess because I don't trash truck stops. I keep my right door closed and I get my shit on time. And my dispatcher's making shit tons of money, and as long as he's making money, I'm making money, the company's making money, and he gets choice pick loads. Now, before I get off here, I know I've talked a lot. When I worked for CRST, I want to say his name was David or Matt. It was one of the two. I can't remember exactly. I know, I just can't think. Before I got into, let me revise a little bit. I was on Linda's board. Linda was based out of not Cedar Rapids. She was based out of Oklahoma City. I drove for her, and she was one of the main reasons why I got where I was at with the company. And whenever she asked me to do something, I didn't ask, what am I going to get? I just said, when does it need to be there? And how long do I have to do it? And that was it. And I would pick it up, I'd run my ass off, and it'd be on time. You know, she'd get the big pat on the back, and, you know, she would give me some breaks and a little bit of extra pay here and there type thing. And I was on home time. And I think I was on home time maybe 2 days. And I had planned on staying that longer on home time. she called me on the phone. Actually, she called my mom's house. My mom picked up the phone, and she said, "Hey, is John there?" And she said, "Give me a second." She goes, "I think it's your DM." So I talked to her on the phone, and she said, "I know you're on home time, and I know you only been there for a couple of days." She goes, "I have a favor to ask. I hate to ask you, but you're the only one close enough that you can retrieve it." I said, "Where's it at?" She said, "Georgetown, Kentucky," which is up there by the Toyota plant. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm about, 2 hours-ish, give or take." And she's like, "Well, I need you to go up there at Bobtail, pick up a trailer, and as soon as you pick up the trailer, it goes to Laredo, Texas." And she said it doesn't deliver until like Tuesday or Wednesday the following week, and this is on a Thursday. And she said, "For every day that you're early to make your drop, I'll give you $500. And for every hour that you sit in detention time, I'll give you $200. And detention time is not what you're thinking like when you was in school. Detention time is basically, say you get to like a drop yard or your consignee, which is who you're delivering to. And they say, well, you have a set time to deliver, but for whatever reason, you're sitting over here waiting for X amount of time because we just can't unload you." And that's what they call detention time. So I was like, I just saw dollar signs in my eyes. I was like, bing, 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 because I already knew for a fact that from my front door to Georgetown, Kentucky was about 2 hours. And then from my front door at the time, actually it wasn't my house, it was my mom's, but from my mom's front door to Laredo, Texas was like 13 to 16 hours-ish, give or take. And I was like, oh man, this is gravy. I said I could be there in no time. So I leave about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I told my mom I got a money deal I just can't pass up. I just can't do it. And I told her how much money she was going to pay me. And my mom said I was a fool if I didn't do it. So I get everything back in the truck. I shag ass up to Georgetown. I connect to it. And then sometime, I don't know, it was between that morning-ish, sometime around that ballpark, they were like, the company was like blowing up my SATCOM on my Qualcomm on the in the side of the truck, because whenever every morning you're supposed to do like a call-in through the computer, the SATCOM, which is satellite radio, not radio, satellite something inside the truck that communicates with all the company dispatchers all across the United States. Well, I didn't do a check-in. I was asleep, and that damn thing was like beep beep, beep beep, beep beep, and then after that it was like beep beep beep, beep beep beep, like an alarm clock, and it just kept going more and more and more. And I got pissed, and I rolled my window down, threw it up the side door of the truck, rolled the window back up. A few minutes later, I guess the gas station attendant guy sat there and walked up, banged on the side of the door. He said, "Man, your radio thing's going off like crazy." And he goes, "You need to put it back in the truck. It's annoying." So I looked at it, and all it was like, "You failed to check in. We need to know what's going on," blah, 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 like that. And I'm thinking, I have a satellite that you can track me 2 foot from any curb in the U.S., and you won't track me, but instead you're going to blow up my SATCOM, piss me off. So I went inside the gas station / old-fashioned truck stop kind of deal. And I'm sitting there on the payphone, I'm talking to my dispatch, and she's like, "Why didn't you check in?" I said, "Because I was asleep when the thing was going off, and I tried to cover it up, and finally I threw it out the window, and I had to bring it back in the truck because the guy was talking about how annoying it was." "Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know you was asleep." I'm like, well, if I didn't respond to you and the truck doesn't show it's been damaged in a wreck or anything, what does that usually mean? I'm sleeping. Leave me the hell alone. And she was like, "Well, just go back and do your check-in," and I kind of snickered. And she sat there and she said, oh. She said, what are you snickering for? I said, I can't do it. She said, why not? I said, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go back to your computer. I want you to track me. And so she went back and tracked me, and Qualcomm came across, call me now. And she sat there and she was like, what in the hell are you doing there? And I said, well, you know, I was going to shut down, but I wasn't tired, so I kept driving. And I kept driving, and I kept driving, and I kept driving, and I kept driving, and I kept driving. And then right about the time the sun started coming up, I was like, you know what? This is a bad time to drive, especially after you drove all night long. When the sun comes up and you've been driving all night long, you get super, super tired. And that's when most of your accidents happen. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to find me a place to pull off. I'm going to take me a siesta for a bit, and I'll be good. And I was in Clines Corners, Texas. And I was like 120 to 180 miles north of Laredo, Texas. And she was like, oh my God. She goes, you cannot be there. And I said, I don't care if I can be here or not. This is where I'm at. And I said, within about a couple hours or a few hours, I'm going to be in Laredo sitting at the truck stop with my feet up on the dash while you're going to be paying me all this money. And she goes, I know. I'm the one that said it. She goes, the deal's a deal. And I said, I know. So I get down there to Laredo, and I'm sitting at I think it was a Pilot truck stop. It might have been a TA. I don't know. I want to say it's a Pilot. But I was sitting there, and about 4 or 5 other drivers, kind of the same type of load, but a little bit different. Same company, different drivers, different boards, were down there. And I had noticed they were going across the street to this van, and then it'd go off for a few hours, and they'd come back late in the morning, and, you know, they would laugh, giggle, and everything else. Well, I was talking to one of them, and they were going into Mexico, a place called Boys Town, Mexico. And there's a name for it, like I'm not gonna pronounce it. I'll find it online. I'll put it in the comment section. But yeah, it's Southside Laredo in Mexico, and it was Boys Town. I'll get to the point here in a minute. And so I asked my DM, I said, hey man, can I go into Mexico with some of these other drivers? And she said, as long as you don't cause an international incident, I don't give a shit what you do. Thank you. So that night, it costs $5 to go down and $5 to come back. And they tell you, if you've never been to Boys Town, stay with the group. That way, you know, you don't get lost or mugged or something doesn't happen to you. They said, but if you've been here a few times and you feel comfortable enough, you can venture off from the group. So we went down there, and I was with a bunch of these other drivers. Of course, they've been there a few more times than I have, but we still stayed in like a little group pocket thing. And there was a restaurant down there called the Broken Spoke. And best food of my life. Oh my God, there's not... The food down there was traditional, and it was like, oh my God, it was so good. And I've begged, I wouldn't say begged, but I've asked very nicely for some of the Mexican restaurants in my area if you could actually cook a dish, traditional, original Mexican dish, versus this American Spanish crap that they serve in restaurants that people think is actually Mexican, which it's not. I said, is there any way? And they're like, well, we probably could, but we'd have to charge you a lot more money. I said, I don't care. I just want another original, true original Mexican dinner. That's all I want. But anyway, it was me and 4 other drivers. And when I say when our plates came out, think of that great big ass platter that you put your turkey on for Thanksgiving. That was a plate. And it was full of food. And of course we asked for sense of bases and everything else. And they were going to bring us your original watered down beer from America, and I said, I said, I want a Corona. I want a true Corona. And I said, bring me a pitcher. And they brought me a pitcher of beer. And they brought me a glass with ice. And I said, no, keep the glass. I want the pitcher. I'm going to drink the pitcher of Corona with my dinner. And we went through 2 or 3 pitchers each, ate the food. And when it came time to pay, now this was in 1997. And I can't remember the exact ratio, but I do know for $1 American dollar it was like 8,000 pesos, something like that, maybe even more than that. But I know it was around at least 8,000 pesos. And I gave the guy 20, and I told him, I said, this is to cover everybody's dinner. And I think in U.S. form, it was like $2 to $3 for the whole dinner with the beer and everything. Was like $2 or $3. And I gave the guy a great big ass tip, and I told him, I said, now in the process, I want all my money exchanged for pesos. I don't want not a single U.S. bill. I want everything in pesos. And I got a stack of money. I'm talking like a stack. You know, you couldn't bend it sideways. I had to fold it and shove it in my pockets. I had cargo pants on the time. I had tons and tons of money on me. But it was worthless because it was in pesos. And these guys were like, what in the fuck would you want pesos? It's worthless. It's like toilet paper and tissue. I was like, man, y'all don't understand. This is great. I'm going to have a blast when I get back home. And they didn't recognize. But before we left that Boys Town, I saw the donkey show. I saw it in person. I saw it drunk in person. And I'm glad I saw it when I was drunk, because if I saw it sober, I probably would have puked my guts out a few times. But I got pictures. Well, I had pictures of the donkey show. And when my DM asked me how my trip in Mexico went, I said, I was great. I got all kinds of pictures and everything. And she goes, oh, really? I'd like to see them. So I put the pictures from my trip to Boys Town in my trip pack, sealed it up, shipped it to her, and 3 days later, my SATCOM looked like DEFCON 1. It was blowing up like crazy. I called in to her. She cussed me like a dog from one side of the United States to the other side, from the border to border. Called me everything in the book, screaming, cussing, crying, carrying on, just like you would not believe. And for years, when I was on her board, I had no idea that she was a Bible-thumping Christian woman. Because she would cut up with me, like most people would. And sometimes I took it kind of on the verge of, cutting up a little bit. And she cut up back, so I figured, she was one of those, just kind of trashy dispatchers. And she fired me on the spot. I had a report. I think it is Mark up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And so I went up there and walked in his room, kicked my feet up on his desk, sit back in the chair, and he got off the phone. And he said, "So you're the one?" I guess. He said, "You're the one that got fired from Linda's board." I was like, kind of grinned. I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Man," he said, "everybody from the grease monkey in the mechanic shop to the owner of the company knows who you are." And I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And he goes, it's not something to be proud about. But Boys Town in Mexico is about an 80-acre whorehouse. And the best way I can describe it is, think of the vampire movie Dusk Till Dawn, when Cheech Marion's on the front steps of the place and he's talking about white pussy and black pussy and purple pussy and pink pussy and, just going on and on. That is what Boys Town is. It is crazy as shit. And, yeah, it's not a very Christian place to go to. But when you're young, in your 20s, and you're wild as hell, It's a great place to go. I'm not gonna lie, it's great. Would I go there again? It's a coin toss. I mean, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't, but I'm not gonna say I would either. I love the food down there. That's probably the main reason I go, for the food and, you know, the stuff of all that kind of stuff there. As far as everything else, I don't give a shit about. It don't matter to me. But and that's another reason why I love Corona, because when I was in a Corona, you get a bottle about the size of a 40, like that big around and about that tall. But you get a real traditional, and when I say real, I'm talking real bottle of Corona, and it cost me like a nickel. And you know, these other guys, well, oh, I want me a bottle of Budweiser. It'd be like $3. In Mexico, it'd be $3. And I get a huge ass bottle of real Corona. It's a nickel. Which one would you rather buy? A great big ass bottle for a nickel, or a small bottle, smaller than what it is in the U.S., for $3? I'm going with a nickel. Oh my God, I love Corona. Corona is the only beer I can drink. I wouldn't say every day, but I could probably drink a single Corona every day with no issues, and that'd be fine. But the reason why I don't drink a single Corona every day and be fine is because alcoholism runs in my dad's side of the family, and alcoholism runs really high in my grandmother's side of the family. That is why I don't drink. I sip, and I might have one a year from now. I might have, my last beer was a 12-ounce can on 4th of July 4 years ago. You know, and that's why I don't do it, because I know since it does run high on both sides of the family, I don't want to be an alcoholic. So I just don't drink. As simple as that. And I know this video is going to be long, and some of y'all are going to be thinking, man, it's crazy, you're insane, you're blah blah blah, and I'm going to be like, yeah baby, it's me. But you know, it is what it is. You know, I'm just enlightening part of my past, some of my craziness and everything. I didn't even get into the good part yet. I'll go ahead and tell you that part. So when I'm in Mark's place up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, I drive for him off and on for a year or so. And I was in his office one day, and he had a small, little bitty ass bottle of Maker's Mark. And I was kind of joking. I said, "Oh, you like Makers, huh?" He's like, "Yeah, but it's too damn expensive." I was like, how much do you pay for a bottle like that? And he goes, "I pay like $20 for that bottle." Now this is like 98, 99, it's around there. 1998, 1999. Somewhere in that ballpark. And I was like, dude, what the hell? And I was like, I said, that bottle right there is like $2 or $3 from where I'm at. He just laughed like, oh, whatever, like you know, kind of like bullshit kind of thing. I'll get on his desk, open up the Ryan McNally book, state of Kentucky. I said, I live right here. And I said, I'd move my finger, like not even like a quarter to a half inch. I said, Maker's Mark Distillery is right here. I said, a fifth of Maker's is like maybe like $10 for a fifth. And he was like, no fucking way. And I was like, told him, I said, I tell you what, you get me a route, a load going to Kentucky or close to Kentucky somewhere to drop off, and then deadhead me through my area so I can stop off, park the trailer somewhere, go down and I'll get you 4 cases of any form of Makers or size you want on one condition. I said, I get top choice pick of loads above any owner operator in the company, and I get first choice of pick, and I get first load. It being where I want to do. Pay wise, everything. And he was like, he's like, deal, deal, deal. And I guess he thought I was kind of bullshitting his ass or something. So I went down, I came home, dropped my load off, came home, parked trailer, drove the truck down to Big Jack's liquor store, which was on the Hardin County, Nelson County line. Of course, Big Jack's is no longer a liquor store no more. They closed down some years ago. I went inside, I got 4 cases of Maker's Mark. And the guy was like, you must be having some kind of a party. said, yeah, you kind of say that. So he puts them on a dolly and he wheels them out. I guess he says, I'm going to put it in the pickup truck or the car. And he goes, which vehicle is yours? I said, the great big champagne colored one sitting right there on the side of the parking lot. He stopped. He said, oh, fuck no. He goes, I am not putting my hands on a box and stick it inside there. And I said, well, you just wheel it out and I'll load it myself then. So I put in 4 cases of Maker's Mark in the side part of my sleeper. And I went up the road, visit my mom a little bit, got some grub, connected to it, went up to Indianapolis, picked up a load, and shag-dashed straight to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Called him across the street from the terminal. So, you taking lunch yet? He said, no. I said, get your ass across the street. He said, well, I can't yet. I said, yeah, you can. I said, because if not, I'm taking the shit with me, and I'll sell it somewhere else. And he was like, oh, and I was like, yeah. So he came over there, parked his car beside on the other side of the truck, opened the side doors up, and he about shit a brick. And I showed him the receipt what I paid for everything, and he about died. He's like, oh my God. And I told him, I said, yep. And I said, I'll tell you right now, when you get back to the house, you might want to take a razor blade and scrape off the Kentucky State tax stamp on the bottle. And I said, because if somebody sees that Kentucky State tax stamp in Iowa, and you don't have an Iowa tax stamp, your ass is going to get nailed. And I said, I'm going to deny everything. And, but I got top choice of picks for loads for months, and there's a lot of these owner-operator drivers. They're like, well, what the hell is he getting loaded before me? Why is he so much special than me? Why is he getting this? And their DMs will tell them, like, hey, all I can tell you is contact his dispatcher and find out what kind of deal he made. And that was left at that. But I drove for him for a long time, and I got, when I said the other day in the video that I saw the grass was greener on the other side, which it wasn't. And so that's when I left them and went to the other side of the pasture, which I found out the grass was the same color it was over there, except for a little worse, a little more dry. And you know, I could have gone back to them, but I didn't. Like a dumbass, I didn't. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I know some of y'all be laughing your ass off still and everything else. No. You know, life is what you make it. You know, I've been handed some shit in life that I could sit around and mope and boo-hoo and complain and feel sorry for myself. But I can't, because a lot of the stuff that has been handed to me is because of the choices that I made in the process before they get handed to me. So, no, I can't blame nothing in life other than myself. And, you know, and this is another thing too, which I know is going to hit a sensitive subject and it can be kind of butthurt for some people. A few of my friends over the past few years have killed themselves. And somebody said something to me one time, like, I hope you don't kill yourself. I'm like, dude, killing myself is the one thing I can guarantee you will never happen. And I said, God put me on this earth for one purpose only. And he said, what's that? I said, to piss off at least one person a day. If I can't piss off at least one person a day, I'm doing something wrong. And it's the truth. That's why I would never kill myself. Plus, you know, I enjoy being on this side of the ground, doing things and eating things and everything else. And, you know, because once you're gone, you know. Now, some people say, you go to heaven, you go to hell, but, you know, nobody knows for sure. So I want to enjoy as much as I can on this side of the earth for as long as I can, and to piss off at least one person a day. So until then, hasta la pasta, have a great day, and I'll see y'all again soon. It's a long video, I know.